All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for this CTE event. Today, I'll be talking to you about how to liven your class with films and music. And mostly what I want to talk about are the principles of how you can incorporate films and music in your class and still avoid some of the pitfalls of the YouTube University syndrome that some of you may be familiar with. Can you all hear me okay? So I'm gonna share this thing. Okay, good. Good. All right, so let's talk about the films and music in your class. And I'm going to make this interactive, so don't feel shy. If I ask a question, go ahead and answer. I think it makes every one of these presentations better when we get some interaction. And hopefully we don't revert back to COVID days where everything is muted, cameras off, and who knows who's here or who's not here. So go ahead and make yourself known. A little bit about me. This is me. My name is Konstantin Iclanu, and I am a lecturer at SMU, and I teach Spanish. And my dissertation was finished in 2017 at the University of Kentucky, and it focused on the representation of immigration, the process of immigration and immigrants from Eastern Europe, North Africa, and Latin America to Spain. And I analyzed this kind of discourses in the media, which includes film, music, political discourse, and other such things, and obviously books, novels, and other things. This is my family. As you can see, it's a fairly large family. This is my wife, Heidi, and then we have 5 of these little babies. This little baby right here became this little baby right here. And this is our music teacher. This summer we took a rock band class. We all learned a different kind of instrument, and we all played something together as a family to bring us closer, to learn something new. And it was a really fun experience. And this is a little bit the base of why I chose to give this talk today, is because I saw how music benefited us as a family, and I think it can do similar things to us as instructors, professors, whatever we may be at the university, and including these things into our classes. So what is the value? Is there value in all these things in the classroom? Obviously, I think that there is, and that's why we're doing this presentation. Otherwise, we would not be. But it can be done in a way that is better, and it can be done in ways that are not so good. And why I say that is because we, as instructors, as professors, we have the authority and the knowledge to teach our subjects, and we should not be afraid of sharing those things. It turns out that sometimes you watch, YouTube or whatever, and you find better ways that other people have come up with to explain concepts and things. And oftentimes we feel like, oh, they've done such a good job, I'll just play them this clip or this thing, and, it's good, right? But that's not good. And we'll talk about that in just a second, why and how. So here's a little bit there's some research on the use of music and songs as pedagogical tools in teaching English as a foreign language. So I'm, as a professor of Spanish, to me, this makes a lot of sense. Some of you may be teaching other things, and you may have to use music and film in different ways. But for me, music in Spanish is a great tool to do many things. To, for example, lower the affective filter, which is, I guess, a pedagogical term that tells you that the student is more comfortable in class, and as they are comfortable, they are more ready to learn. So looking at these conclusions of this academic text, one, they said that they introduce topics. So you can practice vocabulary or some grammatical point using music. And in my Spanish classes, we do this all the time. Another one, this is really funny. This is not practicing a word or a sound. So here you can use this to actually sing in class. This may sound like an activity for younger children, but we can use it in a productive way in our classes as well. And this all depends on the instructor, obviously, and the relationship you have with your students. And as that relationship is, more friendly, more humanized, it is okay to practice some of these more outgoing type activities. Another one is using it as a listening tool. So you can use in the foreign language class, music exposes your students to authentic language and behaviors that may be very similar or may be different than our own, and they are great starting points for conversations about culture and other kinds of cultural products. Another one is to emphasize on learners' frequent errors in an indirect way. This has to do, obviously, with correction of a certain topic. In language, it's obviously when a student makes a mistake. There are many ways of addressing this. There are direct ways, and usually they're fairly discouraged, even though there are better and worse ways of doing it. And then there are indirect ways, such as this, which is to show a correct way of pronunciation or grammar use in context rather than directly. Another thing is to stimulate emotive discussion and just any kind of discussions. Usually music will do that, as well as film. It presents new topics in a way that you just simply cannot in the classroom, right? You can't always take your students on a field trip or take them to the borders of Spain and see let's say the pateras, the boats arriving with immigrants. You just won't be able to do that, but a film will take you there right away, and it provides emotion, which is interesting because it can be ideological. So these are things we had to pay attention to, but they definitely motivate discussions, and they can help us to analyze what we see, both in positive or negative or critical lights. This one's really fun. It offers an easygoing learning environment. I use this constantly. When I start most of my classes, if I'm there at class early enough, I will play a song. And these are not the best pedagogical ways of teaching a specific concept with a song, but because the song is playing in the background, it eases the students and it allows them to feel more at home or to just relax and get into the mood of the class ahead of time. Another thing is to bring variety and diversity in teaching methods, and more than just teaching methods, it obviously brings diversity by viewing people that are different than ourselves and getting people acquainted with others in a way that it makes them and us vulnerable, and it humanizes both us as them by showing how people that look and act different, in the end, they're still human. They have very similar emotions to us, and in that way we sensitize people to many topics that for some reason are controversial, and they really shouldn't be. And last, they encourage imagination and creativity. This is really fun because you can use obviously film and music. This specifically is about music in the classroom, but you could see this being applied to film as well. It allows students to get a starting point for some creative project that may be really fun. So that's one. And then for film, this is something else I found. This is a different article. It's called Using Films as a Tool for Active Learning in Teaching Sociology. So this was about sociology specifically, but I found the the article enlightening for many different topics. So it said this is part of the conclusion. It said the discussion and deliberations after the screening exposed how abstract concepts became understood and comprehensible, and how they deepened students' critical interpretations. Using films in the classroom facilitated a high level of self-involvement and cooperative learning, which are things we aim for, but often are difficult to achieve. Screening films as an instructional tool intensifies retention and understanding, reasoning, and critical thinking. And there have been many studies on this with the power of films and how powerful films are in aiding retention in our students. And we have to be exceptionally careful with this. As I mentioned, films are ideological, and not always do they represent things in an accurate or productive way that we may want our students to learn. So we should always be willing and ready to critique those things that are on screen according to a purpose that we may have as instructors for that specific class. So this is just a little bit about the value of music and film in the classroom, and why we should include it. And again, I say should if it makes sense. For my classes, it makes lots of sense. And I think it can make sense in many other classes. All right, next. The question is how to use music and film in the classroom, because again, pedagogically, there are better ways and some not so good. So has anybody even heard of this before, the YouTube University Syndrome? What do you guys think? Go ahead and shout it out if you can think of any of this.
So this is Scott, and I'm sorry if there's background noise. I have to work from a Starbucks today. I haven't necessarily heard that term, but I could take a shot at maybe what I think it is.
Go ahead.
I've used movies and music and clips and all that in my work for quite a while. I would think it's probably one of two things. Number one, it could be using YouTube clips, to your point, about someone who explains something really well, but then that's basically what you should be doing as the professor, not relying on someone else. And then second, possibly leveraging something online where the person actually isn't necessarily a subject matter expert. Like on TED Talks, you see that a lot with people who speak well, but the content and the validity of what they're saying is actually not accurate. So that's what I would think, but I could be completely wrong.
No, I love that. I think that is perfectly accurate. Does anybody else, have you ever been afraid to show videos or clips in your class because of feeling a little bit weird about it?
I mean, yeah, I showed a little clip in class yesterday, and the response was somewhat lukewarm, you know. So I had people do thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs sideways yesterday, and I got a lot of, you know. So I mean, it was supposed to be a fun clip. It was a song to help them learn something, but still.
Tell us more about this. I think
I'm part of this cause group, the Consortium for the Advancement of Undergraduate Statistics Education. And there's a whole cause web thing that promotes using music, using poetry, things like that in STEM education. And so people write songs and make little clips about different aspects of statistics. And so, you know, I'm trying to incorporate those into some of my class to make things more fun, but I guess I'm worried about being lame, you know, or it not being a good use of instructional time, you know.
And I think, Jessica, those are perfectly valid fears, right? Yeah. Like the last talk I gave was about games in the classroom, and it's a similar thing there, right? Am I wasting my students' time with this, or is this useful somehow? And, you know, that's up to you, and your students will decide that in the end. But I think that there definitely is a space where music and shorts and things like that can be used to enhance a classroom feeling, but also reach pedagogical means, I guess. So let's see here. So what procedures and strategies do you use to avoid letting the videos teach your class for you? Can anybody tell me a strategy? Like, do you just simply show a clip, or do you do anything else in preparation or afterwards, or like, yeah, in the way you present it?
Like, I'll usually use stuff as like either like to pose a question, or almost use the video as the question and then have them go ahead and reply about it for whatever topic we're going ahead and discussing in class. Because a lot of times that way it's not always just me always having a lecture type based piece. It gives them kind of a break. They can go ahead and look at it, get a different perspective, and they can illustrate it. They get the visual and the audio, and then they're able to go ahead and then discuss it. You know, sometimes I'll let small groups, they'll discuss it, and then they'll bring answers forward that they share within the class. I mean, that's one way I usually use a lot of like just little snippet videos, 1 minute, maximum 4 minutes, for what needs to be drawn out. I mean, that's what I've used them for, and usually have a decent amount of success with it.
Yeah, and I think films are very good, or short clips, for that specific purpose, is bringing in a different perspective, and also getting somebody else that's not the professor, that the students can feel a bit more comfortable critiquing that point of view, or addressing it in a way that doesn't feel, directly confrontational to the instructor. Anybody else? Any other strategies that you may have used when presenting anything like film or music to your classes?
The way I sort of addressed my concern about, is this a waste of class time, and will they think it's lame, was I taught the content myself, and then there was a song sort of summarizing the key ideas of probability. It was a probability song, and it's 3.5 minutes. And so we're about to have an exam in Lockdown Browser. And so I gave them instructions for Lockdown Browser, and I gave them a short assignment to test Lockdown Browser. So while I was troubleshooting issues with Lockdown Browser, the song was playing on the screen. So it was sort of like background entertainment while I'm not up at the front of the room. And that was the way I got around it. Some students already had Lockdown Browser and were enjoying or rolling their eyes at the song, and others were working on Lockdown Browser.
Yeah. So. And obviously you can use it as a distraction tool or as an engagement tool while something else needs to happen, like an emergency, what you're describing. Absolutely, that is a way of doing it. According to Moscovich and Scharf, as well as obviously best practices, videos and music are to serve a pedagogical purpose, unless you're in a different situation where you don't need that, and should be shown sandwiched between pre and after activities that are directly related to a class goal or some sort of module that you have. So my goal was to use these clips or films to address some pedagogical purpose, and this is a way of doing it. And I have found to be the best way, but surely there are other ways that you can address these. So always before any sort of a clip, unless it is a clip to set the mood or something to play in the background, if it has a pedagogical purpose, it is always best to obviously watch these things yourself first, and then create a plan at home in your lesson plan of what do you want to do with that song, or what do you want to do with that short clip, and as you know those goals, then you can direct your students by giving them background. So the pre-part of the screening process, you should guide, direct, and advise students. You can introduce them to new vocabulary. You can clarify cinematic terminology and discuss what is required during the screening. So you always want to give that background before you present the clip. And in giving that background, you set the tone, and you also set expectations of what you want your students to focus on as they watch or as they listen to some sort of a medium. Next, there are the during the activities, during screening. So at this stage, it's aimed to push the student to collect data from the film or music in relation to some sort of a concept that you're interested in. So you've raised awareness in the pre-activity. During the activity, you may have them focus on some of the concepts they've thought about in the pre-activity. And then the last part is the post-activity, which is usually a class discussion, debate, or analysis, or a paper, or an exam, or whatever it may be. But usually now, we've thought about it, we've collected the data in the film, and then we put it into practice and we analyze it in some way. And again, this takes planning and thinking, and it matches with your objectives of the class or course or module, whatever they may be, in order to extract most meaning and use, right, utility out of the the video or music. So I have an example here. This is a little video, and this is a situation. So at the start of the class, you decide to show this video, and I'm going to show you the video. Let's see, how do I show you the video? Where's my baby? Can you guys see my whole screen? Can you see anything else like the video right now or no?
We can see the PowerPoint still, but if
Okay,
you might have to, yeah, you might have to stop. There you go. We see the YouTube now.
Okay, so I just started the class and I play this video.
I think it's muted. So one of the things that you do, Constantine, stop the share, reshare again, and whenever you select the window to share, at the very bottom, say to share your audio as well. It's going to be on the bottom left corner of the share window.
Thank you. Thank you for that. That was actually very useful. Tell me if you can hear it now. All right. I'm sure you're all slightly shocked by what you just saw. This is obviously a banned ad. Somehow it's made its way to the internet, and here we have it to think about. Now, if you were to continue your class after showing this video, and then you move on to whatever discussion, let's say discrimination of minorities in the media or minority representation in the media, you will have gained something from this video, but you could also get a lot of things that are not necessarily the best, right? So what do you think are some advantages and disadvantages? And this is obviously a bad example. This is not the best example of how you're supposed to present this, but I wanted to show you first this to discuss, and then we show a little better, hopefully, of how to go about a video. So what are some advantages or disadvantages of this method of using the media in your class without a pre or a during, but with an after, right? So after you've shown the video, you obviously discuss some of the issues you've seen, and you ask the students some questions related to the topic and obviously relate to their reading. So what do you think about this? Could something better been done there in presenting this clip?
A sense of maybe if you could give the students some kind of heads up on what you want them to notice, at least the topic, that would make them pay attention to the specific details. This way you're just following the action.
Very good, right? So we want to focus our students' attention to certain points in the pre-activity, because then those are the things we'll want to address in our class discussion afterwards. Because out of this clip, you can get all sorts of things, right? That terrorists look like this guy, right? You could also get the point of the ad is that these cars, I don't know what, they're super tough. Pure nonsense, right? Any sort of explosion in an enclosed space makes it worse rather than less. So the whole thing is just bad, and it targets people, and it's just really bad, right? So without that pre-activity, without addressing some of these topics ahead of time, maybe talking about how not to represent minorities in a clip, or how this ad uses humor in order to achieve a goal, and it's very poignant because of it, but it's also controversial, right? So how do we critique that? So you start with that, then you show the clip, then you have a discussion that is much more interesting, and it doesn't leave the students in a bit of a shock, like, I don't know what to get from this. What does the teacher want me to get from this, right? So you're eliminating a lot of those if you complete the little pedagogical sandwich of pre, during, and post activities. So I want to show you a different example. And this one, we'll begin the class by telling the students that they're about to watch a short film about immigrants crossing the Mediterranean Sea, seeking a better future in Spain. This is something that happens, unfortunately, way too often. And people from Africa, they travel, depending if they're sub-Saharan or not, they travel north, and then they embark on these boats. In Spanish, they're called pateras, and they are very unsafe. They're usually fishing boats that are used on lakes or at the shores, and never crossing the whole Mediterranean Sea. Because they don't have a keel, they easily topple over. There's a lot of traffic in the Mediterranean Sea, especially in the Gibraltar Strait, where many of these boats will try to cross to bring immigrants to Europe. Oftentimes, these boats get trampled by these gigantic boats, which, unlike cars, a boat doesn't turn, especially if it's a big transport. They just don't turn. You can't stop them. So lots of immigrants die, and the amounts of thousands every year drown trying to cross from Africa to Spain, or to Europe, to Italy, to Greece. There's a variety of different crossing spots. So again, tell your students what you're about to see, give them some context so they understand a little bit. We'll also tell them that the film is called Nana. Nana in Spanish means lullaby. And obviously lullaby is a song that parents sing to their children to soothe them. And it's a universal way of connecting with your children. This is a film directed by Jose Javier Rodriguez Melcon, and the main actress is Ramata Koite. And the film is the winner of the 2006 20th edition of the Goya Awards. The Goya Awards are like the Oscars, the Oscar equivalent in Spain. And it won the category of Best Short Fiction Film. So it's a short film. It is fairly dark, but I want you to take a moment before we see this and research the concept of mise-en-scène and its elements. So here I would give the class a moment to look up what this concept is, and then see what kind of elements it contains. I will just give this to you for the sake of time. Mise-en-scène in French, in English, it means placing on stage, or what is on the stage, what is in the scene, what is put in front of the camera. So anything you see in the square box, so if you look at my camera, the mise-en-scène would include lots of things like storyboarding, meaning a plan before I come up with this. I have a PowerPoint, I've thought about this, and then you also have a visual theme, cinematography, lighting, right? The light is coming from my left. I have costumes. I'm dressed in a certain way because I am supposed to portray, play a teacher, a professor role. I have a space, right? This is my home. You've got some plants, some things. All of these have been placed in the scene on purpose in order to represent something. Maybe that I care about nature. This is some sort of a text that has some religious thing. So it tells you things about me that are important. We have a TV here, which again goes with the videos, right? So it's a setting on stage that is something to be critiqued rather than something to be accepted. It creates a feeling and it creates emotions in us, the viewers, and it puts us in a mode of reception, right? So seeing this thing, you expect, I don't know, a presentation on obviously film and stuff because of the scene as well. So I want my students, as they research this, to think about how narrative storytelling is direction, meaning there is a director that says we're going to do this and that. There's a script, and then there's costumes, there's these actors, they're going to do this. The camera is going to move a certain way, it's going to zoom in and out, there will be sound. All those things are part of directing a film. And in direction, we also create misdirection and illusion, right? And meaning, which is ideology. Now, there's a lot to take in here, a lot of concepts in this small little word, but it's kind of the essential term to understand outside of many others when it comes to film, if you want to analyze it more in depth. Okay, so I would have my students research this, but mostly I want them to think about lighting, costumes, and space, and the storytelling that we get by watching this clip. Okay, good. Then I will show you the short clip, and I will ask you, as you watch this short clip, focus on the mise-en-scène elements so that we can have a discussion about the topic after we've seen it. So let us go and see this clip. And the clip is here. Let me switch. Okay, how do we switch? Okay, can you guys see the screen? It's black. It will be fairly dark. And let me know if the sound doesn't come through. Hopefully it preserved that setting. Can you guys hear a song? Okay, good. And that is it. Let me switch my share again. So that is Nana, a short film. It's fairly short, but includes a lot of things. So let's talk a little bit about what mise-en-scène elements did you see, and did they work to enhance or detract from the purpose of this clip? What do you guys think? What did you see in this clip?
Well, I saw a close-up so that humanized the two people, the connection between the mother and the child, obviously, and then you see that she is part of a group of immigrants. So then, as you see the what is it called,
The boat, the
the
patera.
long shot, then you know, get the context of it, but it arouses emotions because you have already seen the faces in close up, you've seen the intimacy. And I thought does the boat do the waves I mean, does the boat, do they drown, or is it just that they go out of the picture?
Good question. And the
yeah.
film leaves it open for interpretation,
Okay.
which I think makes it even better for discussion, as you could definitely interpret this both as being swallowed by the sea, or not. And the thing that I like to have my students do afterwards, with this clip specifically, is I want them to rewatch the clip with their eyes closed or looking away, just listening to the sound. We're not going to do that, even though it's a really fun experiment. I'm debating whether I should do that. I think we have the time. I'm gonna do it. So just don't look at it. I wonder if I play it, you guys can hear it. Yeah, so try not to look, just listen to the sound. Pay attention to only what you hear rather than what you see. Okay, I'm going to stop it there. What we have here is obviously called a crossfade, meaning we have some sound happening and it goes down in volume, and then another one starts very quiet and goes up in volume and takes over the first sound. What do you think this juxtaposition of the lullaby and the waves tells the viewer about the success of this trip?
I think the waves sound really harsh in comparison to the soft lullaby. So it's kind of, it seems almost threatening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good. Anybody else on the waves? It's interesting, like when I go to the beach or the ocean, I like at night to go on the beach and just listen to the waves. They sound very peaceful and calm to me. And I'm sure many of you have done the same, where just the sound of the ocean is just calming and beautiful in many ways. And in some ways, right, these waves are calming and very nice, but the context that you get from this clip tells you that in this specific case, no, these are threatening. These are, potentially destroying these people, these waves. What sound did you not hear? Now, I did not prep you very well for this, but it is a really good question. what did you not hear while you were listening to this? Most people get confused at this point.
The sound of the oars, maybe?
Okay, very good. The sound of the oars. You're actually really, really close. There's one other sound that we don't hear. If you didn't have oars, what other sound would you hear?
The motor?
The motor. There is no motor, right? The only thing that there is this mother singing this lullaby, right? We take the familial, the homey, the love between a mother and a child, putting this baby to sleep, and then you extrapolate to there is no motor, and then the waves come in, right? And it's just super powerful in how this tiny little film can express so much emotion through such basic cinematography, right? A close-up and then a pull, bird's eye view, and then just the waves and a crossfade between this lullaby and the music. So there's a little bit about how you can teach film or media using pre, during, and post, so you can concentrate students' attention on a certain topic, see it in action, and then discuss it to get more details out of it. You may do a rewatch if that's necessary. Oftentimes it is, because we don't get all the details the first time. And as you rewatch it, you get more out of it. You can bring in new points of interest on the second viewing, etc. Again, I wanted to mention this, right? The ideology policy. Here you can discuss, right? What immigration policy do you think this film proposes? Does it propose an ideology? Film by itself is very ideological, meaning it usually proposes something, even though oftentimes it leaves it to the interpretation of the viewer, but they usually will set us on a certain path of persuasion of some sort. Anyway, I don't think we need to focus too much more on this specific clip. This was more a way to illustrate how to go about putting a film or something like this in action. So what do you think? Do you think that the process of pre, during, and after film screening has helped, or maybe distracted from teaching this film? What do you guys think?
I think it helped.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I think it helps. And again, if we think about what are our goals, and if we have a pedagogical goal, we've selected a clip of some sort, music or film, that makes sense, then we want to direct our students' attention before, during, let them see it, maybe rewatch it, and then discuss those things again. I think it can only help. And I think it can be applied in many different situations, even though for me, it works really well in my Spanish classes or my immigration class. It works really well to do this kind of media sandwich. It's like called the pedagogical media sandwich. Now, do you think it was difficult to prepare to show this clip? And is this a hindrance of some sort? Is it difficult to do this? Yeah.
I feel that you have to have the perfect clip also to, drive home your point. So that requires a lot of pre-work, and it should be appropriately short so that you have time to discuss it at some length to get the students' input.
Yeah, it is hard, right? It's not easy. And many people fear that I'm going to put a lot of effort and the students might not get it, right? But I think in the students getting it is why you do all that prep ahead of time. And that's why you give that background, the pre-activity, in order for the students to get it. Because many times you won't get it, right? Like I didn't really prep you on the sound part, and then I asked you what sound was missing, and many of you did not quite know how to answer it because you didn't focus on that. I asked you to focus on something else. So make sure that whatever you teach pedagogically, you direct your students' attention, kind of like a nice little magician, right? You direct their attention in order for them to get what you want them to get, in order to fit with your class purposes. Do you think that a professor could have achieved a similar pedagogical result without showing the short film that we saw, like the Nana clip? Could we achieve similar things without the use of film?
I don't think
There isn't a concrete answer, obviously. Yeah, go ahead.
like in my opinion, I think like yeah, it won't be the same because this short clip, this story is so powerful. Like there is no like they didn't say anything, but you can get like the idea and the point just immediately. And I think the students they would be very touched by watching this video. So I think that, like it couldn't be the same. Yeah.
I fully agree with you, right? I think that you can teach things without the media, but oftentimes when you have found a perfect clip or something that fits well with what you want to do, it's going to be very hard to portray those feelings, those emotions in such a short time, and then have such a good conversation afterwards. I think it's very difficult. And I think that's the value that media offers us, right? In a minute and a half that this clip was, we've got a ton of stuff. But in preparation for this, there were probably more than 6 months to a year to produce this script, the costumes, the thing, the movie, the cameras, all that stuff. It took somebody a lot of time to get there. And yet it condensed it for us in just a minute and a half, which, I mean, why would we not take advantage of that and have to go through other kinds of much lengthier pain to achieve a similar thing? But again, we didn't let the movie teach the class. We taught the class, we've directed the attention, and then we discussed whatever we were interested in. Good. How about music? We're running short on time, but I still wanted to mention something about music and whether do we teach music the same way? And I think yes and no. It just depends on what you're trying to achieve, right? If you're trying to show something, let's say, for example, there's this film right here. It's a music. It's called the Mexican Institute of Sound, and the soundtrack. The song is called Mexico, and it's a song about the drug wars and their social issues and death in Mexico. It's a fantastic song. I recommend you guys watch it. For a song that has a purpose like that, an ideological purpose, and you want to focus on that, absolutely use the pedagogical media sandwich in order to discuss it. Sometimes, though, you may just want to use music as a distraction or as an introduction, as a setting the scene or a mood, and then you don't need as much preparation for it. So in that way, music can be a really nice tool to present some concept without much preparation. But again, if you want to get in depth, explain the vocabulary of a song like this Billy La Bufanda. This is a really funny song. I recommend you watch it too. And you talk about, I don't know, body parts or something, and you're teaching those, and then you listen to them in Spanish and you see them also in the clip. Then you definitely want to direct your students' attention and then do the afterwards activity. And that brings us to the end. So thank you guys for your time, and give films and music a try in your class. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was lovely.
You guys are welcome. And thank you for coming.